right, so I'm sitting at Mission Barbecue and eating some lunch today after church, and the breaking news drops from the one and the only Oklahoma commentator, Toby Rowland, that Jim Knowles is expected to wind up at Penn State. And this is a gut punch. I'll admit it. I was wrong because I actually recorded a video this morning talking about how I believed some of the information that we were hearing on message boards and things like that wasn't accurate. Like this was being kept close to the vest, and if the agents aren't talking to anybody, right? And so that's kind of what I believed, and that's what I was hearing, and so that's kind of what I talked about. I talked about how I did not think Jim Knowles would end up at Penn State, so I was wrong. But I want to talk about this impact on what it's going to have for the Oklahoma Sooners, and then also what a humongous win this was for Penn State. So before we do that, as always, join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that like, hit the subscribe button. We're going to be talking recruiting content all year long. And hey, listen, I'm going to tell you guys when I'm wrong, just like I did at the beginning of the video. And I was wrong. I did not think Penn State was really going to be that big of a threat here. However, I was missing key information. I did not know that Jim Knowles had family in the Penn State area, in that area. I thought the only connection for family to any of the schools was Oklahoma and his fiance out here. So that was my bad on my part. Probably should have did a little bit more research on there, but we'll clean that up and we'll get better at that towards as we can just continue to progress, right? I'm continuing to learn things, and I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Now, I think the question a lot of Oklahoma fans at this point are going to have is, where did this go wrong for Oklahoma? And I think there's going to be a lot of speculation here. And I think we as Oklahoma fans just really need to keep our heads on straight. Where did it go wrong? Because it feels like Oklahoma consistently loses these battles, especially even when they're willing to pay up, right? Because at the end of the day, per report from George Stoya, which I actually want to share this tweet here. So give me 1 second. Which, by the way, if you guys have not, you guys need to go over to Sooner Scoop and check out their hot board, who they think could potentially be what's going on over there. But George Stoya says that Ohio State offered a similar package. This is referencing Pete Thamel's post of Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles finalizing a 3-year deal to become the next defensive coordinator at Penn State. Averages $3.1 million over 3 years. That average number is important to understand here, because obviously there's going to be bonuses and other things that could kick in that could make Jim Knowles paid higher than $3.1 million. Like, they go win a national championship, maybe they're going to pay him an extra $1 million or something insane like that, right? Because Penn State just about that life right now. Like, they want to go out there and win a national championship. So it's George says, hey, like Oklahoma offered a similar package. I'm sure they did. I mean, everything that you were hearing was Oklahoma played ball. They did not lowball this. They went out and tried to pay up and, try to, get rid of the rumors that were broke, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, it feels like maybe closer proximity to other family members ultimately ended up winning out. And you would imagine a place like Penn State, where maybe James Franklin has a little bit more stability in his job, also probably played a role in this. Not sure, though, because obviously I have not talked to Jim Knowles or anybody in his camp. Just kind of making an assumption there. But you know what they say about assumptions. They make out an ass out of you and me. But that's just kind of like what the thought process is. So Jim Knowles not picking Oklahoma. Obviously, this means now Brent Venables needs to go in another direction. Now, obviously, the clear indication of a guy that's going to get pulled on staff, it seems like at this point you got to bring Wes Goodwin on in some manner or capacity. There's been some talks of maybe him being in an analyst role. And also, he coached linebackers. So maybe he could be like a linebackers coach or an analyst, somebody to kind of help Brent Venables see the defense. Because you would imagine at this point in time, Brent Venables will be the guy calling the defense. Now, this could be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing at the same time. We have seen over the past 3 seasons of Brent Venables coaching these games, issues with game management. You were hoping that a guy like Jim Knowles coming in as the defensive coordinator would help Brent Venables in the game management aspect, because he wouldn't have to solely focus on some of the defensive schemes and things like that. if Brent Venables goes out there and calls the defense, is that going to take his time away from game management? Maybe not as much on the defensive side of the ball because he'll be a little bit more integrated into something, into what's going on. But I definitely think it could cause problems in the future. So I'm not sure if this is something where Brent Venables needs to have somebody kind of like you heard about teams this year that would have people on staff that would kind of help the head coach understand the analytics. You have this in the NFL too. They tell them, hey, the analytics, they go for it, like an analytic person, right? Maybe Brent Venables needs to hire a game manager to be with him, somebody that can help give him recommendations. Hey, you need to call a timeout here or whatever, right? Hey, we're making these subs. Don't do this, right? And maybe that would help game management. But at this point in time, it feels like the only answer at this point is to bring Wes Goodwin on in some capacity. But I would imagine Wes Goodwin is not calling defensive plays. Now, if you're Oklahoma and you are willing to pay upwards of $3.1 million or more for a guy like Jim Knowles, maybe that means you can go out there and get another big-time defensive coordinator, a big-time defensive coordinator. So at the end of the day, it sucks. This is not what you wanted to hear if you were an Oklahoma fan. Everybody wanted Jim Knowles to be the next DC here, especially with some of the elite defenses that he's had over the years, whether it was at Oklahoma State or here at Ohio State, now going on to Penn State. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he picks Penn State over Oklahoma. Oklahoma is now, I guess, looking for another defensive coordinator. I think Jay over at Unfair Sports probably put it the best. There's probably a good chance you don't see them hire another defensive coordinator. They're probably going to wait this out. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to come out and they're going to speculate. And they're going to ask the questions. Where did this all go wrong? And some of you might point to a specific site that originally started all this information going out, right? Originally reported that Oklahoma was going after him. You might point to another site that pointed out or posted a video announcing Jim Knowles as the next defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Might refer to another site, or another guy out there in the sphere that piggybacks on and everything else and put out the info. At the end of the day, I don't think we're truly going to know if any of those three actually caused Oklahoma to bow out. I will say this. I think it's time for Oklahoma to reevaluate the insiders that they really let into their business. Because at the end of the day, I do think that reporting this information probably caused Oklahoma their best chance at getting a guy like Jim Knowles. I will give OU Insider their props, and I do not give them props very often. OU Insider multiple times talked about a big name defensive coordinator, but did not let that name slip. They kept it under wraps. They told you something was in the works, but told you they could not tell you the name. And I guarantee you, if nobody would have said the name, it probably would have been another Clemson situation. You would have probably hired your defensive coordinator like a thief in the middle of the night, and the college football world would have been shocked. So I want to hear from y'all. Jump in the comments, join the discussion. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. If you guys have not already, make sure you guys hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.